My Discworld journey continues. G'day to all you lovely people and welcome back to my channel. I'm Kathy and today I wanted to talk about how my Discworld journey is going, how I am finding the Discworld books. I am new to the Discworld and I have spoken about this previously in my other videos that I resisted reading the Discworld books for many years. I thought that they just weren't going to be for me and I was wrong, because I am loving them. So far I have read 15 Discworld books and I'm in the middle of Soul Music, which is book 16. I am reading them according to publication date. A lot of people have recommended that I read like the mini series, whether it's The Witches, Death or The Guards, etc. But I'm actually really enjoying not knowing what is going to come up next. Which characters, if any, are going to feature in it. I think by book 15 you have an idea of the main characters who seem to reappear in other books, but quite often we are introduced to new characters who don't appear again, and I don't mind that either. I like the one-off books as well. Whilst I do love seeing the same characters throughout a series, I'm actually liking being surprised and not knowing what I'm going to find in the next book. That, I think, makes them really interesting to me, which is why I'm preferring to read them like this, because I can also see how Pratchett has changed as a writer, how he is honing his craft with each subsequent book, because he's definitely getting better, no doubts about it. Now, I won't deny that my favourite series are The Witches and Death. I just love those books. Them I eat up really quickly because I enjoy the characters so much. I love Granny Weatherwax and Nanny. They just kill me when they're together. I think they're hilariously funny. Especially Granny Weatherwax because she acts all-knowing and yet really she doesn't have a clue about so many things. And yet she gets away with it. She's also very tough and strong-willed, and I think that's why I really enjoy her character. And Nanny is such a perfect foil for her because she is so laid back and relaxed and risque compared to Granny that you have to laugh when you see them together. But they are such a joy to read. Though I will say so far, they're not all equal. I have read, which one is it? Lords and Ladies, Weird Sisters, and Witches Abroad. Lord and Ladies, this one was the last one I read, and I will confess this one I didn't love as much. This one is about elves, dark elves I guess, and this fear that they will enslave humanity. Whilst I really did like this one, particularly as it also had some of the wizards from the Unseen University, I love seeing all these familiar characters. I don't think it was my favourite, possibly because whilst Margaret, the youngest of the three witches, is a good balance, I guess, to the others, sometimes she can be really boring, I find. Whereas I never find Nanny or Granny boring. They always make me laugh. I did love seeing the different characters from the university as well as the witches kind of intermixing and being connected in strange ways. But overall, it wasn't one of my favourites. No. Weird Sisters was hilarious. I might have spoken about this one, I can't recall, but what I really loved about this was all the Shakespearean references and just the humour, I think, was just spot on. Well, it was for me anyway. It really tickled my funny bone. I laughed throughout this one. Then there is Witches Abroad. This one introduced a tooth fairy, which I thought was hilarious. I liked parts of this one and some parts I didn't love as much. we got to meet some of Granny Weatherwax's relatives, which I found kind of odd because there's been no mention of them previously. But still, this one kind of mocked fairy tales and the happy ever after ending, I guess. It reminded me a bit of Shrek, actually, when I was reading it. But I believe this predates Shrek anyway. What I liked is it was so subversive, actually, about fairy tales and happy endings and how they're not realistic. And I also like that it seemed to hint at how we can live in a nanny state. A lot of people say that about Australia, that we live in a nanny state where the state believes it knows best for us because we're just not intelligent enough to know what is good for us. And that kind of reminds me of the attitude of, I think it was a fairy godmother in this, but that made me, and I might have said tooth fairy where I meant fairy godmother, so forgive me for that. Regardless, I just like that kind of parallel with our world or with certain places where the governments feel they know best what is good for you and that they will force it down your throat at the expense of your freedom. Yeah. That was really cool about this book. But that is what is so cool about all of Pratchett's books, is that he takes a theme, whatever it is, whether it is politics, religion, or movies, or the bureaucracy, or finance, and then he just rips it apart. But always with a subtle hand. He was extremely good at making his point without bludgeoning you with it. And that, I think, is why I love his book so much. I like seeing some of the attitudes that I also have reflected in his books and pointing out the absurdity of certain aspects of our lives, whatever it is. My favorite of all that did that has to be Small Gods. This one. I loved Small Gods. I think it is one of my favorites of all that I've read so far because it was so smart, so funny. I am an atheist, I should mention, and I don't have a lot of respect for certain religious institutions. I feel sometimes that they are just commercial ventures. And I know that's not accurate. It's just some of them are. They seem to be more concerned with money than actual spirituality, which I feel is what a religious institution should be. And Pratchett just takes a scalpel to religion in this book, I thought anyway. This one I found the most biting of all, though still without bludgeoning you with his beliefs, because I'm assuming they were his beliefs. I could be wrong, but I got the feeling that he does not have a lot of respect for religious institutions either. And yet he made this one so funny. I was laughing throughout this book, mostly though because I loved all the commentary he had regarding religion. That's all I really want to say about this book, but I highly recommend Small Gods. I think it is one of the best ones that I've read so far. Now, all the other one-off books like Moving Pictures, which mocks the film industry, or Eric, I don't know what that was supposed to mock, probably the childhood dreams, I'm not sure. Careful what you wish for kind of thing. Or there was Pyramids, which was definitely not one of my favorites. I really did enjoy them, and I liked that they kind of broke up the other books in the series. But out of all of them, I think Small Gods was just a step above all of them. The other series, of course, and very popular one, is the Guard series. And this is Men at Arms. I think this is the second book I read in this series. It introduced a character called Carrot, who I just loved. He was very literal, and I think that's what makes him so funny and also quite innocent in many ways, and a stickler for the rules. Quite different to all the other guards that struggle very hard to maintain order in Ankh-Morpork, or whatever it's called, and I'm sure I got that wrong because I always do. These were really good. I loved this idea of them being kind of token gestures rather than a real police force or guards that they are expected to just turn a blind eye whenever certain crimes take place in this city, because the way Pratchett has set this city up, there are guilds, like thieves' guilds. And if you are not a member, then they will kill you. If you're a member, though, you are allowed to steal a certain amount per day, for example. I guess it made crime organized without it being mafia, and much more manageable, I think, as a result. Though, of course, it is absurd to think that crime can be organized and a city can flourish, but there you go. I think his point is that anything organized is better than something that isn't. However, the things that some of these criminals get away with is outrageous. Yeah. But the characters, the guards themselves, especially the captain, whose name escapes me right now. I really liked the captain and I loved Carrot, but all the characters are funny. And what's so good about Pratchett is he does imbue each character with their own personality, so they are distinctive. They don't feel like cardboard copies of each other. And yet, he doesn't spend a lot of time on their characters, just enough to give you an understanding of who they are. And I think they're all recognizable in some way or form. You might know, say, another Carrot in your life, or one of the other guards. And that, I think, is what makes these books just ring true, not just entertain you, not just make you laugh and think about some of these issues, but they also point out so many things that apply to our own worlds. I can see why people love the Guards series. They are funny and they are very clever regarding how a city is supposed to operate. Yeah, I don't think I want my city to operate like that, but like I said, you see glimpses or concepts that do apply to your own life, and you think, yeah, we're close to that. We're not quite that ridiculous or absurd as the city of Ankh-Morpork, but you can see parallels. And that, I guess, points out how easy it is to slip into parody, even in our own lives, because it does feel like that sometimes. And last but by no means least, the death books, or the books that feature death, I should say. Reaper Man was the last one I read. I am in the middle of Soul Music, which also features death, but I think he plays a much more minor role. Regardless, this one was one of my favorites. This one and Mort, I think they're equal favorites. I just loved this one because Death was kicked out of his job. Seriously, this one just had me laughing non-stop throughout. I thought it was so clever. I loved how Pratchett took this idea of, you're now obsolete, we don't need you, and finding that in fact he was needed because the whole world was going to fall to pieces. And perhaps that was a parallel to people being replaced by, say, I don't know, computers or machinery, and yet the human touch is always needed, or the death touch is always needed. No pun intended. But yes, Death is so funny in this. I think what I love most about him is his deadpan humor, no pun intended. God, I'm just going to be talking puns now. But the truth is, He is so flat and deadpan throughout. He's also very literal at times, and that's what makes him hilarious. He has some of the best lines, I think, throughout these books. And I defy anyone to read a book about death and not fall in love with him. Yeah, he is a very memorable character. I think I would remember death for many years to come, whereas I might get a bit more vague, say, about the witches. Even Granny, who I do adore. But I've decided that death is my absolute favourite character throughout the Discworld books so far anyway. Yeah. I do believe that the 10 books between, say, book 5 and 15 are considered some of the best in the series. So perhaps that is why I just gobbled them up so quickly and loved them so much. But I can't speak to that because that's all I've read so far. Nevertheless, if this is the kind of quality I can expect in the future books, then I'm not going to be disappointed. Yeah. In conclusion, what I wanted to say is that I cannot believe I waited so long to read these books. I absolutely love them. I can see myself rereading them again and again. And I've decided I love these so much that I have to own them. So I've already placed an order for another 10, and I think that'll take me up to around 28. I believe there's 40 altogether. I had to stop somewhere. For now anyway. The only ones I'm a bit hesitant about whether to buy are the ones that are for a young audience. I might read them and see, but I most likely will buy them anyway, just for completeness. So I have them all. To me, the fact that I'm buying more and more of these is an indication of just how much I love these books. So I am thoroughly enjoying my Discworld journey, and it is going to continue. Though, as I've mentioned many times before, I can't read a lot of them together. Though I did read some. I think I read 2 or 3 at one point because I was just enjoying them so much. I just have to be in the right frame of mind. If I'm not in the mood for humour, there is no point reading these books because I won't enjoy them. And whilst I understand why people suggest you read the series together, like The Witches or Death, etc., I honestly believe I wouldn't be enjoying them as much as I am right now because I never know what I'm going to get. And that is one of the best parts of this series, is being surprised each time I pick up a book, not knowing who is going to feature in it or whether I'll know anyone in that book. This has definitely become one of my favourite series, and I'm so glad that one of my subscribers recommended I try them, and I'm glad that I did. I cannot recommend this series enough if you have never read them. Don't hesitate if you're like me, thinking they may not be for you. If you like a bit of humour in your books, or a lot of humour, then there's no way you will not enjoy these. Because not only are they extremely funny, and the puns, because I think Pratchett was the master of puns, are hysterically funny. They also have a lot to say about different aspects of our lives. Even if one element of that was missing, they still would have been good. But having all of these elements together just elevates these books so much more to something really special, I think, anyway. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. That has been my Discworld journey so far. I guess I will keep you guys updated once I have read a few more. Now, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the Discworld books. Have you read any? Have I inspired you to read any? Which ones are your favourites? And you can let me know down in the comments, or you can contact me on Instagram. And as usual, you can like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already, as it helps my channel to grow. I hope you all have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time. Bye!